would
Yeah.
you mind sharing your best clients, the
Yes.
best niches, if you want to share those, or maybe those are, secret, which is fine. And the best month you've had.
Great question. Best month, I want to say it was definitely over 20K. It's pretty close to 25K that month.
Solid.
Uh,
The following is an interview with David Lee. He's a longtime friend and fellow Rank and Rent entrepreneur. We've been doing Rank and Rent for a number of years, and David is just another success story in the Rank and Rent space. I would like to bring these interviews to you guys to give you the confidence to start your Rank and Rent journey. We talk about life, mindset, staying focused, lifestyle creep, niches, clients, how much money we make, and more. And as always, if you like content like this, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below on what content you would like to see next. Now, without further ado, let's get into the interview.
All right. Thank you, David, for joining us today. I've known David here for, actually, I had to look back through our messages. I've known you since 2021, I guess we started talking. And
oh,
we were part of the same program all the way back in 2021. I forget when you joined, but yeah, we've been kind of talking ever since. We've actually shared some SEO tools over the years and talked this and that, talk shop, backlinks and content and tools and stuff like that. So thank you so much for your time joining us to talk everything about rank and rent marketing. Yeah, welcome.
that's right. That's right. Actually, so yeah, I think I started, I might have even reached out to you because I was trying to find out about this program. I think I reached out to your web design website. I think it was Strongbird
That's
Design.
right. Yeah, yeah.
I was asking you, hey, my sister's a web developer. I'm interested in developing this digital real estate. And that I think that kind of took me on this rabbit hole of finding out more about it. And off the bat, it was just such a great idea because I was at the time looking into physical real estate. And I was like,
Okay,
look, amount of capital, it's a lot of money, obviously, to get started,
sure.
unless you're like a veteran and going 0% down or something.
Yeah. So did you move into physical real estate after getting into digital real estate, or did you just stay in the rank and rent space?
So I put all my attention focus on rank and rent, and I think I started, this was in November 2020. And at first, I was just like figuring out how do I build websites
Hmm.
as fast as possible, and how do I figure out how to like rank them and the whole process, the whole 9 yards. And then I realized as I'm starting to rank them, wait, I need to sell these. Now, how do I sell these? So it was just
Right.
like one problem after another that you had to learn to solve. And thankfully, I've had these different coaching programs and different resources that really helped me along the path. And
Hmm.
so if I didn't have that, I would probably just running into the wall in every direction. And
Right. Yeah.
there's so many
There definitely
different,
is some nuance to like, okay, first you build the site, which is, I don't know if you would agree with this, but it might be the easiest part,
it
right,
is,
of the whole process. And then you generate leads and then you have to figure out how to sell the leads, right? So I think that's kind of the nuance part, which is different than selling anything else. There's kind of a way to talk to local business owners and get them on the hook and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's definitely nice to have, essentially a roadmap on how to get the stuff done.
yeah, 100%. Um, and just being in a community with people who are like-minded, who are entrepreneurs and who are trying to figure it out themselves. And some people are further down the path. I've met a lot of great people in person as well who are
Hmm.
further along than I am. And the thing is about business, things are constantly evolving and you're always having to pivot, whether it's in your ranking strategy, because Google's algorithm is constantly updating. Like right now, we're going
Hmm.
through some shaking in the rankings, but I think, yeah, as long as you learn how to ride the wave, and if you could do it with a group of
Mm.
people you know and trust, I think it's definitely a great opportunity. Lately, it's been a little harder, to be honest, with rank and rent and lead generation. And so I've been
Mm-hmm.
looking at other ideas, because while the money is in rank and rent is good, and yeah, there's a lot of great things about it. It's like it doesn't require much maintenance, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you got a good system and automations in the background. I think that's something further down the line if you're a beginner you might not think about, but you want to like maybe record yourself doing almost everything because maybe you might pass it down to someone who would help you, whether it's a VA or yeah, someone who just helps you, like
Sure.
a family
Yeah, the
member.
age of Chat GPT as of what, 2021, 2022, that kind of came on the scene. I've been doing a lot of things with make.com and trying to, use webhooks from just adding a simple keyword into Airtable, and then that'll pull a bunch of SEO data and then, write a blog title and then outline the blog and go through all these different branches in the make.com automation. And essentially it'll push out a finished blog post on a WordPress website. So,
It's beautiful.
compare that to when I first started. I have my writer in Nairobi, Kenya, who writes better English than I do. He was very good, but very cheap at the time. It was about 1 cent per word. But I would still have to wait a week or more to get, a website's worth of content back to put on the website. And now you just literally put a keyword in Airtable base and you have content published to the website. It's pretty insane, kind of the speed that we're kind of seeing this content creation game change. I don't know if you're using much automation at this point. You kind of alluded to it.
Yeah, so that's a great idea. Actually, I haven't even thought about how I could incorporate ChatGPT. I started
Hmm.
transitioning from Zapier, which is very similar to Make.com, a
Sure.
lot more user friendly, but a lot more expensive too.
Hmm.
And I was using Zapier, paying like 1,000 a year. It was great, but
Right.
definitely don't feel like I'm tapping into it enough. Because I do use ChatGPT too, but I don't have it to the point where I just put in a keyword and it writes a whole blog post. So that's a great
Hmm.
idea. So you're making my mind on as to where I
Yeah, I
could.
think premium Airtable is like $100 a year or whatever it is, and then make.com is like, 250 maybe. So you might spend, 350 per year. So, it's pretty nominal if you look at any of these AI content platforms, right? Where they're like, hey, for $100 a month, you can write 5 blog posts, right? So they're
Right.
really kind of gating how much you can actually get done, versus using the tools at our fingertips to kind of build your own system and make it custom for you and your clients, I think is the better way to go about it. It is fairly complex if you want to get into all the nitty gritty and have it do your keyword research as well. But yeah, it's been pretty amazing to just automate that step of the process because as we go through these Google updates, I feel like it's interesting, right? Because Google said, at least from what I've been reading, Google has stated it doesn't have a problem with artificial intelligence content. It has a problem if the content is inaccurate, right? So the internet's getting flooded with all this AI content. You
Right.
kind of have to read it and like make sure it's real and accurate. But what's the end game, right? So like imagine a world where like even like the most backwoods, concrete contractor has like the slickest website, fully AI optimized. I don't know if we're ever going to get there, but yeah, the internet is definitely evolving, and there's more and more businesses that are optimizing their website. So what does that mean? Like what if everyone has a perfectly optimized website? Like who wins in that scenario? And I feel like it's backlinks, right? Like whoever can pay to play or have the best backlinks, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. So for me personally, I feel like content is more important. But yeah, if you're talking about a more competitive niche, maybe like plumbing or roofing, you definitely want to go
Sure.
more backlinks and definitely have high DR, high DA backlinks. But honestly, for me, I've realized optimizing like the Google business profile itself is more important
Hmm. And having
than
that mirror the website, so whatever services you have on the GMB, put on the
right.
website, right? Vice versa.
Going beyond that, definitely the backlinks, and then there's also even more you could do on top of that that adds like the cherry on the top. Yeah, those are the two basic things that
Hmm.
anyone should focus on. But yeah, definitely, I think the challenge now is getting those Google business profiles up and preventing them from getting suspended.
Right.
And
That's the biggest challenge for sure. Yep.
lately, I'm thinking I need a backup, like a backup GBP, GMB for all the ones that I have clients on.
Mm.
I'm thinking about doing that as well. And thankfully now it's been a lot better. I mean, there we could go into the weeds of it, but there's a lot of ways to prevent it as well.
Hmm.
Now for sure, I'm not doing enough. I'm pretty much kind of just let my automations run and try to do as little work as possible. Have my VAs, have my automations do most of the work.
Hmm.
And I'm also even thinking about like perhaps pivoting into SaaS. I was thinking about
Okay.
SMMA for a moment, but I think that is definitely getting saturated, and you definitely have
Mm.
to find a niche, and it has to be something maybe that you want to be slightly passionate about. Like I think of Alex Hormozy, he got in the golden age of Facebook ads, and he was all
Hmm.
about the guy's so buff. He was all about gyms and
Right.
selling gym memberships
Yep.
and marketing for other gyms and having like this franchise model. So it works for him because he was passionate about it. Eventually, he too eventually moved on, sold it, and now is just buying up and helping other businesses.
Hmm.
Um, but I think with anything, unless you're only passionate about the money, it's hard to just constantly be passionate about a business, even if it is generating money. So for me, it's like I'm at a point where, okay, I don't need to scale like crazy. And
Hmm.
because with scaling, does that mean you have to hire more people or you have to set up more systems in place and hopefully it doesn't break? That
Right.
causes a action of problems. So I'm at a place where I'm pretty satisfied with where I am and I'm looking at other opportunities. Um, Particularly with SaaS, I find interesting because I love building stuff in general, which is why the whole idea of building a website too is like it sounds really fun, and it could be really fun. You could tinker around with it for ages. Obviously, that in
Hmm.
itself will not be money. I mean, I'm talking to someone who does it for a
Right.
living.
Yep.
But, but yeah, I think it would be great to find good SaaS idea and build upon that and use the money that I get from Rank and Rent to fund that. That's
Sure.
next pivot or the next stage for me. Or the other idea for me is maybe I could, because I'm in the home services space, I could start my own home service company and
Hmm.
basically because I already know the whole marketing piece, and that's like the biggest, I think, money driver besides sales and obviously having good product and good service.
Sure.
And so I think that might be another idea. Not as excited about it because I would have to find someone to manage it, someone who's willing to do perhaps blue collar work, to get their hands dirty with doing the
Hmm.
actual thing. So
Yeah, the
that's just,
biggest thing with that is just finding good help, finding good people in the trades.
yeah, you're having to find people, you have to hire people, maybe you have to teach them from scratch. It's a whole
Hmm.
nother ballgame when you have that many moving pieces and people to manage.
Yeah. I was actually looking it up in Washington State, and it's surprisingly very easy to get a general contractor's license. I think it's like $50 or $100, and then you have to have a bond, right, to be licensed and bonded and insured and all that, which is $12,000 in a bank account, or you could pay $120 a year,
Oh,
you know? So $150 and you're up and running. And it was actually very surprising. I was like, wow, anyone could be a general contractor. It's kind of scary in a way, but if you have the best of intentions and you want to build the business correctly and all that, it can be very lucrative, if you can find good people to hire and good systems and obviously leads, right? You got to have the lead gen thing set up. But yeah, I'm actually brokering a deal right now with one of my clients who I've been sending drywall projects to, and he left that company, and his name's actually David as well. And he's going out on his own, and he basically wants to create kind of a kind of a platform style website where anyone in the city can come to and get anything done. Like they can build, he does drywall, but they can build houses from the ground up. They can do electrical, plumbing, roofing, basically everything. So it's kind of like a mini home advisor is kind of like where my mind went on like how to build the site, have all these like doorway pages for all the services and all the cities in the county. But the cool thing about that is the way that we structured the deal is he's paying about $7,500 up front, and then I'm actually getting a piece of the action, like a percentage on closed deals on the back end as well, kind of as a partner to the business. So kind of exciting, to see where that goes. But it's definitely, I mean, to go back to your original point of like how rank and rent is changing and how you're pivoting, it kind of goes to the point of building these hybrid deals where it's not purely rank and rent. You're not purely just selling leads. It might be a website build, for a client, right? Which is much easier to get a Google My Business listing up and verified because you're actually using the client's information and everything is above board. So yeah, I think that's the way that a lot of people are moving is client work. You can still probably do a hybrid of rank and rent plus plus web design or plus pay per click. Providing the CRM to a client is a very sticky service, right? Go high level or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Kind of, I've been doing web design for 10 years, and I can see myself doing it for the next 20 or 30, unless there's like, really crazy experience based like metaverse 3D things I have to build on a website. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but yeah, websites have essentially stayed the same for a long time. Um, the UI has gotten better, the functionality has been upgraded, but more or less, it's text and images on a page. So I think it's still a good place to be, especially if you're already doing rank and rent, how to build websites, you can just sell them to clients as well.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
there's so many different directions you could take, but
Yeah.
only don't want to get too distracted with like, for me, I get easily distracted with all the, what would you call it?
Shiny objects.
Objects that are around.
Yeah, for
Not to
sure.
be about them.
That's actually all my notes over here, shiny objects. I was going back through our chat history, and
Yeah.
we've shared, CTR, stuff. I think we shared like a content creation tool at some point, an SEO analysis tool. It's definitely easy. And the numbers that we were talking about, $600 for a tool or, like whatever it was, $1,000. Once you're in the game, that's kind of part of the business is like, what do I invest in to make the business easier? But looking back, it's like, okay, what actually made a difference and what am I still using is kind of the question. So, and of course you won't know that unless you try it, right? It's kind of like hindsight is 2020, but it's really interesting going back and looking at all the tools that I've used in the past, probably hundreds at this point, that I no longer use. So,
Yeah, I was just looking at my AppSumo purchase history. I was like, wait, I don't use that.
right.
I never even used that. I paid
Yeah.
like $100 for something I never used. So I mean,
Yeah. I
it's so
really like, Graham's post the other week where he showed how much he's saved in AppSumo purchases or lifetime deals. Do you remember seeing that?
I think I remember that, like it's worth millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's worth like $3 million or something, or he saved like $2 million or whatever it was, which is, pretty awesome. But he's also spent hundreds of thousands or whatever it is on lifetime deals. So,
Yeah, you're like an early adopter taking a risk on a company
hmm
that might hold maybe in a year from now, but there's
right.
just so much going on now with AI. It's just hard to hedge your bets on who's going to be, still around in a year because it's
hmm
constantly evolving with AI.
Yeah,
Um,
everything is speeding up at like breakneck speeds and is really, really crazy to watch, Even this make.com automation I sent up that or set up this week, it's like, okay, I built this. I spent, 5 hours setting this up, but is there going to be something next week or next month that's going to make that completely obsolete? Or am I going to use this for the next year or two or three? Um, yeah, it's definitely really interesting to see how fast things are evolving. Um, but you kind of have to take it in stride and kind of do what you can at any point in your business to kind of optimize it. Um, would
yeah,
you mind sharing your best clients, the
yes,
best niches, if you want to share those, or maybe those are, secret, which is fine. Um, and the best month you've had,
great question. So best client that I have now, the best clients honestly are the ones that I have to maintain the least
of course.
and
Yeah.
having to call them up and check in on them. Honestly, that's not my favorite thing to do because usually when you call customers or clients, it's like always they're gonna come up with a problem. Maybe they didn't have it at the time, but they're gonna think of
hmm
things, questions to ask and problems for you to solve, which is fine. Like you're trying to provide a service, obviously, and it's obviously they're paying you a lot. So in terms of like the best client monetarily, one of my clients pays 1,000 a week, and this is in a niche that I don't recommend. So it's not a niche that I recommend people go into. It's very limited, but most of them that for me I find to be good is in concrete. Concrete is a great niche, and a lot of people have probably already started their first site in it. I think it's a great niche. Best month, I want to say it was definitely over 20K. It's pretty close to 25K that month.
Solid.
Uh, Pretty good. Most
And
of my
that's
clients,
probably from like what, 10 websites maybe? 10 or
I don't,
15?
I don't have too many websites actually.
Yeah.
Honestly, the less I have, the better. In fact, I'm cutting down on websites that I'm paying for
hmm
host.
Are you
And
hosting on WordPress or using Duda or something else?
I'm using Duda.
Okay.
Web,
Yeah.
uh, honestly, because I had a few headaches with WordPress, I'm a little hesitant. I think I talked
hmm
about this with you, but definitely,
Sure.
definitely put security on your WordPress site. Otherwise,
Right.
you're going to get hacked to pieces.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize just how bad it could get. But if you're not watching it, there's like hundreds of hackers just waiting to hack your
I
website.
know. Yeah, I actually just enabled a setting on my hosting that I didn't know this was an option, but I basically only whitelisted my home IP address for SSH and FTP. Um, this whole
Hmm.
time I've had 5 servers kind of open to the world where anyone could SSH into the IP address of the server. So I feel like that was maybe the reason I got hacked a couple of times. But more often than not, it's just an out of date plugin, that you just didn't update in time and they found kind of a hole in the firewall, so to speak, to get in there. But yeah, I use Duda as well. I will say that if I launch a site on Duda and I launch a site on WordPress, Duda starts to rank much, much faster than WordPress. And
Okay.
I have a feeling it's a couple of things. I think it's the speed, depending on how many plugins you have and your optimizations and all that and your server. WordPress websites are probably going to load slower than Duda. Coming
Yeah.
out of the gate, I don't know about like making bigger and bigger websites. I'm not sure how Duda handles that. But the other thing is schema. So in Duda, schema also comes kind of standard built into everything. You just put in the business info and it kind of puts it on your pages, which isn't obviously standard in WordPress. So I think I was very surprised. I launched a website and I was at the top of page two and the bottom of page one after a week of launching on Duda. And I was like, oh, okay, nice. I can see why people use this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It is definitely easy to use, like very low maintenance. You don't have to worry about updating anything.
Hmm.
As long as you're willing to pay whatever it is, at least 15 or
Right.
$10 a month. And yeah,
I
but
think you can pay for a year, right? Like 99 a year if you do it up front. Or did they
oh,
change that?
um, you're probably right. Yeah, don't
Yeah, I
quote me
used to
on
pay like
prices.
99 or I think it's like 13 a month or something like that.
Yeah, but I think WordPress for sure, like you're only paying for the hosting for all your websites. Like you can host like 50
Hmm.
websites, maybe like $30. I don't know. Depends on
Yep.
your,
Yeah, it's
but
usually like 50 cents to a dollar per website
yeah,
per month. Yeah.
it's a great per dollar. I mean, website for your dollar
Hmm.
cost. If you're willing to deal with the headaches and if you're okay with things breaking every now and then, having to back up things and restore things, it's totally
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah. I've
Um,
also found if you do like any client work, it's hard to kind of convince them because everyone knows WordPress. Like they're like, "Oh, are you going to build this on WordPress?" They usually bring it up to you, right? Like, what are you going to build this in WordPress? And for the most part, I do. Like most of my client websites are WordPress. But if I
right.
was going to recommend Duda or Webflow or anything else, it's always that kind of it's like a secondary sale that you have to make is
Mhm.
like, okay, why do you want to put me on a platform? Because then they're kind of like this gets off into the weeds about like ownership and like, do you actually own your website if you don't own the code on the server and stuff like that? Which is a really interesting, I've thought about this for years, right? It's kind of an interesting thought exercise because even if you own the files to your WordPress website on the server and you can move them around from server to server, does it really matter? Because it's the same thing if you had a website on a platform like Duda where you're not necessarily going to move it anywhere, but you don't have to either. Even if you wanted to like I don't know, maybe I guess this is like the biggest thing is if you wanted to take it down for any amount of time. With WordPress, you could do that. You could store the files locally on your computer, and
Right.
then you can re-upload them at any point. On a platform, you can't do that. So I guess that would be the only differences between ownership of an actual website.
There is ways to migrate to it, I believe. I've never had to do it myself.
Hmm.
The only client websites that I've built are all on WordPress, thankfully, and
Right.
it's pretty easy when you have a good template and you just swap things around. Just
Hmm.
do a website on WordPress. And I mean this do it as the same thing, but like when you could do it for such a fraction of a cost, it's great.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, Duda has some kind of cool little features like having a collection of data in like a Google Drive or the Google Sheet, right? So you can have I
yeah.
just made a website for a tap house and we put their tap list in a Google Sheet and they can just have it insert as a table that's colored and typography that matches the website. But all they have to do is go in the Google Sheet, update the name of the beer and the ABV and the price or whatever, and it'll update on the Duda website, which is kind of cool. Obviously, you can do that on WordPress too, but I think it's called like collections in Duda. When I first started using Duda, I was like, okay, how can I build a site just in Google Sheets? Set up the template and basically create a page for every row in Google Sheet for like every service and every location and all that kind of stuff. But it got fairly complex pretty fast. So kind of stopped doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Duda is great as long as you're willing to pay it. And obviously, if you have clients that are paying for it, even better. It's
Right.
very low. You don't need a webmaster or anything or have to do that for anybody.
Do you charge
Um,
for hosting as well? Like $50 a month or something?
of course, yeah, definitely gonna charge for
Hmm.
host. And honestly, I don't do too much web design. If anything, I only have one SEO client and everything else is rank and rent, lead gen.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that's like, especially if it's flat fee, it's for pretty low maintenance.
Hmm.
If you want to do something where you're doing, it's like a rev share, it's gonna be more
Sure.
involved, but definitely make way more money. And that's maybe like the next step if you find a client that you trust. And honestly, I'm probably thinking about asking some of my clients to do the same, but we'll see how
Hmm.
that goes. Not sure how to structure that deal. That's definitely going to involve maybe some lawyers at that point.
Yeah. I mean, you just need access to their books, right? Like you need a way to verify that the amount of work that you're bringing them is the amount that they're paying you for, which is, it's definitely a partnership, that should come with a contract and, roles and, what you bring to the table, what they're going to do. Um, I've gone down that route a couple of times and it's never worked out for me. So it's, I wish you luck, of course. It's just, it's, you have to do it right. You have to get access to everything and kind of set everything up so it's very transparent. Unless it's like a family member or a friend where you really trust them and you're kind of building it together. Yeah, it can kind of, because contractors are the worst, right? They're like, oh yeah, I'll pay you commission or, whatever. And then when it comes down to it, they either say they didn't get the job or the job was less than the amount that they actually got paid to do it. So that your percentage is actually a lot lower. That happened to me a lot. I think the biggest job I sent was $750,000, and the guy said he didn't get it. I don't know if he did. I don't know if he didn't, but you know, from his perspective, probably paying a few percentage out of that 750 grand is kind of a hard pill to swallow. So all he had to say was, "Yeah, we didn't get it." So,
Yeah, no, it's true. So yeah, I would differentiate. Maybe I don't mean rev share as in strictly commission. Yeah, I
hmm.
think that's definitely the lowest on the totem pole of very high risk for yourself as the one providing the leads.
Hmm.
Definitely want structure in place. Like if you have access to their CRM, their QuickBooks, obviously then it's a lot harder for them to hide it from you. But
Hmm.
they can still do things, off the books, right? So there's no way you can 100% verify again, like unless you 100% trust them. So of course that might be something you might encounter. Definitely that's what I'm trying to figure out how do I avoid that.
Hmm.
And
But flat fee is king, right? I mean, we
flat
all
fee,
do it. Flat fee is kind of the way to go. It's how you scale, cash flow. There's a certain amount coming in every month and you don't have to manage anything, right? You're like, okay, this guy's paying me 1,000, this guy's paying me 800, this guy's paying me 2,000. And obviously you can renegotiate if price or if leads go up or down, you know. You can say, hey, last month you got 20 leads, this month you got 30, so would you mind paying me, a little bit extra? And they always are, right? If they want to keep the faucet on, you know,
yeah,
at least in my experience, they're happy to pay that. But if they're not, that's kind of the power in ranking rent is you can just go on and find a new client. So you definitely hold the power a little bit more versus doing kind of a rev share deal, I guess.
yeah. I guess what I was thinking more also these days is just like having equity in the business.
Mm-hmm.
This is that you're helping. I think
Yeah.
yeah, That's what I was talking about. When I'm saying RevShare, I'm thinking of my friend who does RevShare with his Facebook ads clients, and
Mm,
he gets, for example, 10% of the revenue that he helps generate for that business,
mm-hmm.
and charges like a monthly retainer of 7,500. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money, especially if you're in a high ticket niche. That's a lot. Um,
Right. Does that
Now
include ad spend or is that just kind of the management fee?
I think all included. So that I think
Okay.
that's that is included with the rev share and 7,500. Otherwise, that's you're asking for quite a chunk of money.
Right.
And
Yeah, I mean, I guess you would want to spend all of the money if the upside potential is larger, you wouldn't really want to keep any of the retainer. You would ideally want to spend all of that money to generate leads, so then you would have a higher probability of getting a larger, commission. That's at least what I would do, unless you obviously have like hard costs, you know,
right, right,
employees to manage the campaign or whatever it is.
right, the overhead. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the problem about like a SMMA is, from what I'm hearing at least, because that's one of the shiny objects, is you do need a lot of manpower to have it
Mm,
running, because you have to constantly be checking on your campaigns and optimize
right.
campaigns. And
Yep.
it sounds like even more involved in some ways than SEO, because you kind of like create content, you throw it out there and it just sticks. You just internal link it and maybe just
Mm,
start blasting it with some good backlinks. But with at least like the ad game, you have to like constantly be optimizing. The only benefit is if you're in only one niche, then you could just have the same template and have that optimized for all your clients.
hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
definitely a lot more involved than what we're doing in Rank and Rent is what I'm trying to get at. But it could also be very profitable. But
sure.
again, when it comes to like hiring people and firing people, it's a lot more work than sometimes it's worth. It's just like when you're dealing with clients, when there's problems, it could be a real big problem. And when
Hmm.
it's going smoothly, then okay, great. Your day's going great. But there's always going to be problems when you're dealing with people. That's
Hmm.
why I'm a little hesitant about jumping into that. So honestly, if I had to recommend it, I don't recommend it unless you really like the niche and you really niche down into it. But I
Hmm.
could say the same about SaaS too. I think SaaS, you really need to have a good idea and you really had to validate your idea. And like even as you're talking, I was thinking like using make.com, or you could like use some no code platform like Bubble over it and maybe create like
Hmm.
a GH go high level like lookalike on top of it without having to pay go high level. Or you could use white label go high level. Obviously, that works too. And you can have, but with that, you're kind of limited to that space and you're kind of dependent on go high level. But
Hmm.
you could optimize and create services out of your own SaaS platform, like have a automation where if, for example, you're in, I don't know, carpet cleaning, for example, and probably all your neighbors of the customer might need carpet cleaning. You could have a blast go out to all those in the surrounding area to get like a flyer or something. And they have services like that, but if you could have that all integrated into one, I think that would be powerful.
So you're talking about like niching down and providing a platform for a particular industry.
Yeah, like a CRM on the front end,
Hmm.
but it has all the automations that are customized to them.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Currently, I offer that as kind of a like part of my packages, but it's not like I'm trying to scale the SaaS component. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like a piece of the lead gen, but it's not like, I'm advertising to like come onto the platform to solve all your problems. It's more of like the other way around, like solve the problem through lead gen and the CRM is kind of like the sticky component.
Mm.
of like get all the data in there, and then they don't want to leave because they have, all their automations and their text message marketing and everything kind of already set up. Um, yeah, but maybe I should focus on like scaling that side more. I mean, $300 for go high level or whatever it is per month is pretty nominal. If you get one client, it kind of pays for the whole system.
Yeah, it could be your lead magnet instead of
Mm,
like add-on that comes on the upsell towards the end.
sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, I think lead gen is much more profitable on the front end. Um, the long end, you're kind of just dependent on Google's algorithm not going crazy and being on top of that.
Hmm.
And who knows, maybe we're not using Google. Maybe everything is going to be in a Vision Pro and everything's going to be 4D. Who
Right.
knows? We're not even making phone calls. Maybe we're meeting people virtually, contractors in a virtual space.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah,
a
we
lot.
just think about it, and our neural link, connects to Zoom, and we flutter our eyelids, and suddenly we're we're talking to our clients. Yeah, I mean, I saw a 5D movie theater the other day on Reddit. Did you see that? Where it was like the simulation of the movie theater catching on fire, like the
Mm.
fire going up the curtains and going across the roof. And like the sound and the visuals was so intense that I thought I was looking at a video of a movie theater fire, but everyone's chilling in their seat and they're like, whoa, like looking up at the ceiling. And it's yeah, it's gonna get a little bit more like multi-sensory or whatever. Obviously with entertainment, but I think with working, if Zuckerberg's, vision comes to life about the metaverse and going to work and wearing goggles, and we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah, you just need to add the hands and legs.
Right. Exactly. Did you see
Most
the
point.
video of the Cybertruck driver who was wearing the Vision Pro?
No, I haven't seen that one
He,
yet.
he was on the freeway and he had the Cybertruck, self-driving, and he was using his Vision Pro and like doing computer work or whatever. And it looks so dystopic, right? That you look over and there's this dude that's like not paying attention.
Slowly they
um,
live. It's insane.
yeah. So, what do you do to stay focused and on track, or do you have an issue staying focused and on track?
A great question. Honestly, I'm always trying to optimize my life, whether it's in health and exercise. I run marathons, I lift weights. I also work a full-time job. I don't know if I ever mentioned this. I work a
Oh
full-time
no,
job
you didn't.
on top of doing
Well,
marathons. And then wedding planning. So there's a lot of things going on. Obviously, if I were to start from ground zero, first thing you need is some kind of to-do list and then a calendar, like Google Calendar, and just put everything in there so that you pretty much you got to treat yourself almost like a robot. You got to like remind yourself, oh, I got to do this thing at this time to the
hmm.
point where it becomes a habit. And once it's a habit, then it becomes way easier. The initiation energy that it takes to just start a thing is a lot less once things are just kind of automated in your life. And
Hmm.
that's kind of like the approach I take. I don't want to become a robot, but in a way,
Yep.
technology these days, there's a lot of ways you can optimize. Not to say optimization is even the highest goal either, but
Hmm.
definitely having more time to do the things that you love is. So if I had to start, yeah, I use an app like Todoist that you can put on your phone. You can put a widget with all your to-do lists. You can prioritize them. You could schedule them out. You could have them repeated. And if you pay for it too, you can have reminders set. I don't pay for mine. And if you use something like Make or Zapier, you can have it integrate into your calendar. You can have it integrate into your CRM. And so then everything's just kind of connected. So you always know what you're doing whenever you glance at your phone, you see your calendar widget, you see your Todoist, and that's kind of like how I try to optimize my lifestyle. And I'm always constantly learning how to improve it. But this is what allows me to focus because honestly, when you keep on remembering, oh, I gotta do this or do that, that's how you get easily distracted. And I'm kind of ADHD as it
Hmm.
is. So I need
Yeah.
to be able to know exactly what I need to do for that day and just having as few distractions as possible.
Hmm.
So trying to narrow it down to like the three most urgent and important things for that day is probably the most important thing you could start off with. And then anything else that's not urgent, you just schedule it out, but it's still important. And then just tackle it by priority and urgency.
Yeah. I recently got back into bullet journaling. So, starting with like a blank page and really laying it out how you want it to be and using the index, the annual overview, the monthly overview, the weekly, the daily. That
It's
really
intense.
keeps you on track because it forces you to a system and a process. And I think writing things down for me, um, I'm just way more productive. I think there's this weird innate kind of ancient longing to like use our hands and like write things down. I heard actually, especially in cursive, I don't always write in cursive unless I'm journaling. It's usually just in all caps or whatever. Um, but cursive, there's some weird like brain hand connection to where it's a lot more effective, if you're writing affirmations or gratitude or whatever. But yeah, bullet journaling is really good. And I think for the calendar, I also use a calendar obviously for booked appointments and stuff like that. But even tasks, like going back to you being a robot or try not to be a robot, if you treat a task like an appointment that you have to show up for, you don't want to disappoint yourself or show up to an appointment or not show up to an appointment for someone else. So if you treat your tasks like an appointment, like you blocked out this time to actually get it done, then you're more likely to kind of do it. I found that the recurring tasks, I usually just kind of blow off, because like I'll see it the next week and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm supposed to do that, I guess. And then it just kind of like goes by the wayside. But if I kind of sit down on Sunday and I, like you said, list those like top three things, then those always get done, you know,
Yeah.
because you actually write it down and you commit to it.
Yeah, I commend you for doing bullet journaling. I know that's a little more time consuming, but
Hmm.
like you said, like when I think they've done studies where if you just type things on a screen, you don't really retain that information as well as if you just wrote it down because it involves
Hmm.
more senses, as I think you kind of mentioned or were alluding to. And the more senses you can involve, like if you can involve sense of smell to remind you of something, like the smell of morning coffee, and then you remember,
Hmm.
oh, I got this thing with that, take my supplements or whatever it is, drink a glass of water first thing in the morning. There are just so many things, so many life hacks that you could do to just optimize your life. But having
Hmm.
that in front of you is another important thing. Like it's great if you have a whiteboard that's filled with things that you need to do, but if you're not looking at it, then you're gonna forget about it. So
Right.
be present, like right in front of you to remind you. And has everything in your workspace should be neat and orderly as much as possible. I know you have a newborn now, so it may be a little more hectic to keep things tidy,
Right.
but
Got this little seat over here.
so
Yeah, it's been hectic. So I only work full time. I mean, I don't really have to work at all. You probably don't either. We're
mm,
already to this point where we don't have to work, but we all obviously want to optimize and keep growing our business. But yeah, with the newborn, I only work full time about 2 or 3 days a week because I'm watching him the other days while my wife is at work. So that's definitely been a challenge, seeing how many hours of the day he takes a nap, which is like, okay, I shushed him to sleep and now I have like, 20 minutes or whatever to get something done, which obviously isn't conducive to deep work, getting a lot of significant things done. but yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge. One of my mentors, he has this drawing that his son did, way back when he was little, and there was the mother and like over here, and himself over here with the mom, and then Matt was all the way over here sitting at a computer, and Matt, it just broke his heart. He's like, why am I all the way over there? He's like, oh, that's you at your computer. That's how his son always saw him, always working, always, you mentioned time is a very valuable resource. So, you know, as my son grows, I want to make sure I delegate, optimize my business as much as possible to where, I don't have to be sitting here every day. And that's what he sees every day. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, the focus portion is like, what are your priorities first off? Because it's great to be optimized, but what are you optimizing for? I think is the greater question, the why, the purpose. Why are you trying to make things work out with your business, and why are you trying to scale your business in the first place? And for me, it's not necessarily need to be a bajillionaire. I don't need to be the next Alex Hormozy or fame. I don't need any of that stuff. Like, obviously, I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be out on the streets living in a box. I mean, you could buy a closet and that they call an apartment here in New York, and people can live comfortably there. Obviously, I don't want to live in a closet though either. I want to live comfortably, but for me, honestly, everything it comes down to is for me, I think the purpose of life is really to just love and serve people. And for me, being a religious person, a Christian, I want to serve God in everything that I do. And to me, that's important. And that's what gives me purpose, knowing that what I have going on now, whether like going through some hard times or not, it's all for a greater eternal purpose. I'm not trying to win brownie points necessarily either with God. It's just because I
hmm
know that I'm already accepted and loved by God and saved by His grace that I do everything that I do. And for me, yeah, I think, well, going back to your question, focus, getting enough sleep will help tremendously with your focus.
yeah.
It's more of a challenge for you if your newborn is like waking up and if you're not taking
Yeah, I've
care.
been sleep deprived for 4 months now. It's fine. I get up like at least twice every night to feed him. I
That's
mean, we
challenging.
we we go back and forth, me and my wife, but yeah, sleep is. I mean, all things considered, it's amazing how your body adapts to lifestyle changes. Um, but yeah, I mean, once he starts sleeping through the night, here pretty soon, probably in the next month or two, it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna sleep as much as I can, and wake up every day recharged. Because that's when you can actually get some meaningful work done.
Yeah, sleep, I think, is like one of those fundamental things that we tend to neglect, especially with this push for hustling and the hustle
Mm,
culture, which I think is good and bad. The good is that you don't want to be lazy. You want to, strive to reach your goals, but you also don't want to deprive yourself of your basic needs to where you burn out. And
hmm
so, sleep, eating well, eating a clean, healthy diet, not eating too quick. That's my problem. I eat too much too quickly, and then I have food coma. So if you could even avoid that as well, you could do a lot more, be more focused. It's just those little
Yeah.
things. Yeah, if you could automate your business, like whether it's rank and rent or whatever you decide to do, because I think entrepreneurship is awesome, like all those benefits you mentioned. But I had to give the caveat, you have to be ready for the ups and downs, and you have to
hmm
be willing to live below your means. I think
mm
just until things stabilize, because business in itself is unstable, just as much as
Yeah.
a job is unstable too in some ways. But at least the income is stable until it's not.
Right. I have over here in my notes to talk about lifestyle creep, which I definitely felt a little bit. I mean, I still feel it. I'm trying to cut down on some unnecessary expenses, but I feel like, when you hit 5K a month and then 10K and then 20K, you're obviously reinvesting what you want to into the business. You're getting new tools, you're hiring more people, you're getting more backlinks, what have you. But with that also comes travel or, a new car or, whatever lifestyle creep variable you want to throw in there. Have you experienced lifestyle creep or have you been you
Oh,
kept a level head the entire time?
no, I would love to say that I have. It's just retrospectively, I had to remind myself as I was kind of talking about it. You want to live below your means. Don't buy that dream house right away unless you know you're going to be making that for the next 15, 30 years or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's humbling, but at the same time, it's also freeing, not having to know that, oh, I have to pay this much to just maintain this lifestyle, to have that car. And honestly, then it's just less things you have to worry about. Um, but to be honest, for me, it's easy for me to say that I am, but it's when you're making more money, honestly, things that used to bother you a lot less. Like, oh, this cost me $5. So, oh, there's like
Totally.
five
Yeah.
around. Let me pick that up. Oh,
Because it's
this is
less of like a overall percentage of your nest egg or whatever.
exactly. It's proportionally a
Yeah.
lot less significant. But I think just even with that, maybe part of the issue is maybe I need to just reevaluate not just where my spending is going, but what actually gives me joy, what actually do I get derived joy out of, rather than like buying more. Like I'm also a gadget person, buying more gadgets, buying more tools, softwares. Is that giving me more joy? Or is it just actually creating more problems where, okay, now I need to learn how to use that, or I need to put that somewhere, store that somewhere, and then it's constantly on your mind. So in some sense, you want to be kind of like a minimalist as well. Like I kind of think of Alex Hormozy, I'm just going to use that example because he drove like a Prius with a broken windshield, even while he was making tens of millions of dollars. And so I think of that
Hmm.
mindset. For him, he was never about taking any investor money or seed money or anything like that. He wanted to be debt free. Um, I think there's something mentally, like a mental burden that's lifted when you don't have to think about, "Oh, I got all these debts just crushing me right now, all these responsibilities." Because ultimately,
Hmm.
you're just a slave to your debtor in a way that you might be a slave to a boss or maybe even to a client that gives you a lot of headaches and but pays you the majority of your revenue. So that's another way to think about it. Like, do you want more
Hmm.
headaches that you get?
Right. Yeah, we definitely live in a debt-based system. Um, but yeah, I mean, rank and rent is, yeah, anything that cash flows, right? Like if you have a job, that's the only thing that cash flows in your life, unless you get a gift or a windfall of money. But literally, the only thing that cash flows in your life is a job versus owning an asset that pays you every month, right? It could be an apartment building, it could be a house, um, it could be, dividend stocks, I suppose, um, or it could be a digital asset um, that is opposite of debt, right? It cash flows into your bank account rather than leaving your bank account, or you're kind of hooked on for a piece of debt that that drains you for sure. Do you own a house in New York, or you're renting?
That's a great question. Right now, I'm looking to buy. And so now I'm
Nice. Yeah.
struggling with the idea of do I want to buy a house with everything that I want? Or basically, it's like apartment here because things are just
Right.
outlandishly expensive here in New York. And or am I willing to just downsize and just pay off my debts as soon as possible? Just
Mm.
so maybe it's not the best way to invest my money per se, but just so I don't have to think about having debt or mortgage
Yeah,
anymore.
I think peace of mind is definitely, pretty high on the consideration list. You know, you can't really put a price on peace of mind or being debt free. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
so
you can, but
yes, you can. Exactly. That's
there's always a number, right? But yeah, I mean, we bought this house in 2020. Um, bottom of the market, timed it really nice. It's like 2.875 interest rate. Um,
great.
but I can make more than 2.875 just investing my money either in my business or in Bitcoin or the stock market or whatever. So I'm not paying it off early. I know a lot of people like to pay off, their huge mortgage early, but it's basically free money at that interest rate. So if you make anything more than the interest rate, it makes more sense to just not pay it off, you know? Um, at least for me, I guess the peace of mind goes back to that of like over time, I guess we're paying, I don't know what the math is. I think it's like 200K in interest, something like
Yeah,
that. Other
that's
properties is much higher. You're paying like 75% of the value of the property and interest, depending on interest rate. So yeah, it can get pretty out of hand pretty quick.
yeah. I mean, with interest rate now is 7%.
Oh
Um,
man,
it's pretty
good
bad.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously for you in your situation, it's different.
Hmm.
2.75. If I were in your position and if I had a sizable uh, principal that was paid off, then I would probably cash refi and buy investment properties.
Hmm.
But I think it's all based on everyone's risk tolerance
Hmm.
as well. If you're willing to take risks,
Kind of a risky guy. So, when I joined the rank and rent program in 2016 or whatever, it was like all the savings I had in my account. I was on the sales call and I was like, yeah, let's do it, like 7K or whatever it was. And the rest is history. So I think it's all about taking calculated risks as an entrepreneur and an investor, I guess, same thing, same sort of stuff. And just, we're still young. So even if I screw up, I still have a little bit of time to catch up.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, this was great. I appreciate all the questions. I
sure.
really
Yeah.
enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for hopping on. I think we covered a lot of good stuff here. Any
Yeah.
closing remarks for the audience?
Yeah. Well, if you're thinking about doing rank and rent, Jordan is definitely, I'm not in his program, but I just know that he has been in the game longer than I have and very successful. And it seems like he has systems even more, um, I guess you could say complex and more advanced than what I would have thought of. So definitely consider Jordan's course. And I don't know if that's something you're selling right now on the channel.
Yeah, not really, but thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, I'm actually toying with the idea of making my course completely free. It's a very
Okay.
revolutionary idea, but the idea there is I would just use affiliate links in the course to make all my money. But if I could
Oh,
get, 1,000 or 10,000 students in my course and they all start their rank and rent journey, the potential upside if everyone actually uses my link might be greater than me bringing in a much smaller amount of students. So stay tuned for that. Something I'm thinking about. I think I'm going to build it out in school, so something I have to work on. But yeah, thank you for the plug.
yeah, of course. Yeah, Jordan, definitely a great guy. No, and I know I'm talking about you like you're not here, but
Yeah,
we talk a lot about tools. We talk a lot about crypto automations. This is just a very cool conversation talking about lifestyle creep. I didn't think I would be talking about that, but that's something I honestly think about a lot these days. And so I really appreciate that question. And I know with your background and with everything that you're talking about, it seems like you really are on the up and up with your rank and rank game. I could definitely see you. I don't know where you're at now, but definitely I wouldn't be surprised if you're at 1 million in revenue on
Not
point.
quite that high, no.
Yeah. So yeah, rank and rent, it definitely is high margins. So out of all the business models I've considered, including physical real estate, if you don't have that much capital, I would give rank and rent a try. Owning digital real estate, it's really hard to beat. It's about building your assets, things that last long, and building systems that last long as well. Thinking about the not the 5 year timeline, but thinking 10-year down timeline and just thinking, are these going to continue to grow with me and my family and provide for my family 10 years down the line is a way to look at it. As a job might give you that to some extent or the illusion of it. Um, but ultimately, if you could put whatever you gain out of a job or even rank and rent into other assets like physical real estate, I think that would be a better end game to play. And then you could have more time freedom, you could have more financial freedom, and you could retire early if that's your thing, go on more vacations, if you work remotely. There's just so many things you could do with it. And so, yeah, I think it's a great business model still in 2024, even with all its challenges. And I know I mentioned all these other business models, which I'm considering. But I think what's going to fuel those other business opportunities that allow me to pursue my passion is going to be rank and rent.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, Jordan.